name is Jill Greenbaum. I am so delighted to be here with you. This is my colleague Erin Gordon, who will be graphically reporting the event and sharing with us just a little bit at the end about what she has done. And so we're here. You have goodies in front of you. Everyone at this point should have a packet. You don't need to look at it yet. You have a packet that has a paper clip. You have some drawing paper. You should have a utensil for drawing. I mean, these are very important just things because you're going to be working with this. And it looks like you're feeling comfortable and good. Excellent, yes. Thank you. I love the nods over there. It's very helpful. All right, and so let's begin. My name is Jill Greenbaum. I'm an appreciative inquiry facilitator and a graphic reporter and part of the team of Drawify. And so I'm delighted to bring one of my passions to you here today. And as you know, we are here for re-envisioning yourself and designing the life that you desire. And so we're going to begin with just a little bit of history, but actually, even before we do that, something more fun. I want you to think for just a moment, what is the best thing that's happened to you today? I want you to pick up your marker, use a blank sheet of paper, and draw it. Take 2 to 3 minutes of the best thing that's happened to you today. We have markers for what is out. Some other folks want to walk. Yeah. So a marker, a pen, a pencil, anything except blood. We're not doing that. There are not. So hopefully you have, I mean, there might be one more, but I think it just disappeared. So maybe a buddy next to you has a pen. Just draw it. All right, so my imagining is that at this point the room is quiet and you're all drawing because you have just 2 to 3 minutes to do that, and then you're going to be sharing that with a partner. So do the best you can. Whatever you do is going to be great because you'll be explaining it to that person. What I'd like to do is ask you and hear from maybe 3 or 4 people in the room. What was that like to be asked that question, to do the drawing, and to talk with 1 or more partners? What was that experience like?
Okay, so first of all,
it's just an answer to the question because we only have 90 minutes.
Okay, yes. So, how did I feel when I
what was that like? Yeah.
I think it took me back to the beginning of the day and got me thinking as to what was that special moment. And what is truly special for doing this is that it makes you think inside, go inside and think as to how much grateful you should be for things that happened in your day. And that's what I felt.
Beautiful.
A lot.
I appreciate it.
I felt really good. But I shared a memory that my son called me from back home just to tell me good night. And then it opened up another conversation with him about how is it like to set up a family and whatnot. So it actually evolved into another thing which was very deep in terms of connection. So it was great.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Go ahead. So that can be our last one.
Sure. The best thing is the very good way to remember the morning time. Yes, and then I didn't have time, but just came out flashback that the moment that I really had about with no hesitation. The one visual that came to my mind, I just drew it and I told him, and then I know why. So it's like a visual and the image can come to the verbalize. So I think it's a very great experience to summarize my morning.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Yep, your colleagues are going to do this, I know, right? So let's just take a moment to reflect on the 3 different types of answers that we got from the one question that was asked, because I was asking about thoughts and feelings and I got so much more, right? We heard feelings, we heard thoughts that evolved into something else, and then we heard a process answer to the question also. So really rich, thank you for that. All right, so that's how we begin our time together. We've already started using some appreciative inquiry principles. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. I wanted to refer to the first page in your packet there, and that is essentially our agenda. Of course, being a visualizer, so to speak, I'm always thinking of how do I take my ideas. Do you need, there are a couple of here, do you like to talk here? One extra, hopefully you'll share with others. Sure thing. And so this is also not just our agenda for what we'll be discussing, but a note-making space for you and a map of our journey together. So I'm hoping that you'll use it in that way because we'll be discussing all of these principles. And so our agenda for our time together is really to take a look at what is appreciative inquiry. And so to dive right into it, is that it is a generative and practical approach to change. It is a change model that is primarily used in organizations and can also be used at the personal level. And so while I haven't actually created a list of resources, I can always do that and drop that into the app. If folks are interested in that, or we can talk later, I'm happy to do that. But that's where we're starting. It is a change model that takes a different view than many others. And so that's where we'll begin. And there are, as you can tell from our agenda here, there are 5 Ds of the appreciative inquiry design process. And the first D we have already done. Well, you came to the workshop because of it. And it's called define. And so we define the problem at the very beginning. Or who said that? That's old language. We define the issue or the question at the very beginning. And so our issue or question is right on Erin's chart there, and the title, which is Re-envisioning Yourself and Design the Life You Desire. So you're here to do that. So that is the topic that we are addressing. Our next D is going to be discovering, and that's looking at our foundation. So that is the second D in our process, and we're going to dive right into that. So let's talk a little bit about that. And let's talk about how this theory came into existence. So some of you may be aware of the name of David Ryder. He is the creator of appreciative inquiry. And so years ago, when he was doing his graduate degree at Case Western University, he was tasked with going to Cleveland Hospital and Clinic and to discover what was going on there, because there seemed to be a lot of problems. And so he searched and searched, he asked about the problems, and oh my gosh, he found so many. He decided, but wait, this is a well-known, well-respected, highly functioning hospital in many respects. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong thing. Maybe I should be looking for what's working here. How do we find what our foundation is? How do we amplify that and use that as the process to move forward? And so that is what appreciative inquiry is all about. And that's how it came into being. And so we start with that define phase, and then we go into discovering what is working and how do we amplify that. So you're going to have that opportunity too. And I know this entire time together is about leadership. You can decide if you want to focus on leadership in your business world and life, or if you want to do it from a more professional stance. So that's your call in terms of working with the material. So our second page in the packet will be our next experience together. So you are going to be invited to work with a partner. So it might mean a little chair shuffling if maybe our first 2 groups, someone from each of these will come together to work in some way, just so you are working with one partner, because you want to have a full amount of time to be able to have a conversation. And you will use, one person will begin as an interviewer, and you will use the interview guide. And you'll be exploring a high point experience in your life. So maybe as a leader in your business world, or as a leader in your personal life. And so you'll work with the questions that are here. And as the interviewer, you will listen. You'll probably take some notes along the way. And you may write the answers, if you like, on the interview summary sheet. So you have 2 pieces of paper. You decide how you want to work with it. I'll give you a little bit of time to look at them also. So there'll be an interviewer, an interviewee, for approximately 8 to 10 minutes, and then we will switch roles. Right, so everyone will have an opportunity to talk, to be interviewed, and to reflect. And so that is the beginning of discovering your foundation, which is the second D. So I want to check in with you, make sure everyone has access to, can at least look at or share some papers for this interview process about discovering your foundation and a high point experience in your life. Are you feeling comfortable? Do you have any questions? All right, I'm going to take that as a no. And so about halfway through, I'm going to ring the chimes just so you know to switch for sure, okay? Because sometimes you go deep fast in this. All right, in that case, find a partner, probably the person sitting next to you, maybe across the way, and get to work. Beautiful, thank you. So let's take some time to reflect on what you just experienced. What was it like for you to be asked these questions, to reflect on them, to share them with someone else? So as the speaker and as the listener, what was it like for you to receive that information and to respond to the questions on the summary sheet? To take it deep. Let's hear from at least half a dozen new people around the room. Start us off.
Well, in our case, I think it built trust and respect.
Beautiful. Yes.
I felt very blessed hearing this personal information which is opened and offered to me.
Beautiful. Thanks. Appreciate it. And be sure to speak up because I know we've got a big room here. So yeah, so let's go here next.
I feel as a human, somehow we are very similar. Our stories are very similar. Our desires are very similar. There could be a little bit here and there, but ultimately their roots are the same.
Very nice. Yes.
Sense of connection and common threads.
Sure. Do you want to expand on that at all? It's up to you.
Yeah, I think in general, like we felt like, okay, we got to know each other better and felt more comfortable as we kept talking. So just kind of growing connection with those questions. Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you. Yes.
I made a very good friend right now.
Oh.
Everything about each other. So connection is what I really value, and also a lot of reflection on our own lives. We both did a lot of reflection going back of what things happened and all of that. So yeah, connection and reflection.
Yeah, I found it was very interesting because I found it very correlated to one of the sessions we had yesterday, talking about how we could share with someone we don't necessarily know our first 15%. And it made me reflect on this, and it's incredible how quickly we can increase those 15%.
Oh, I love that. So I'm just going to slip for a moment and we'll come back. We'll absolutely hear from more folks. But I want to just highlight a few of the principles that we're already working with, and you just named one. And so in essence, when we started with what's the best thing that's happened to you today, that's the poetic principle, because it's really about what we focus on grows. And so you will see some of these cards on all of the tables. All 5 principles are there spread across the table. But we began with the poetic principle, what you focus on grows. What we heard from people was the constructionist principle, which is my story is one perspective. And to me, that was the beauty. I had the opportunity because someone came in on the later side and asked for another packet. And I was like, oh, be my partner, right? Because I didn't want him to be left out. And so I got to witness and to hear his story and his perspective. And when I shared back to him, I gave him my perspective on his story, right? So we're talking about different perspectives. And what you just raised with your comments is the simultaneity principle, which is change happens the moment you ask a question. So our questions are fateful. Remember back to David Cooper Ryder, he was looking for problems and he found them. When he looked for what was working in the hospital, celebrated what they could amplify, he found those too. And honestly, would you rather be focusing and digging deep into a problem? Or would you rather be saying, how can we make what's working even bigger and better? And that's what this is about. So thank you for raising that and taking us there. Let's hear from some other folks around the room. This side of the room, perhaps? Yeah, all the way in the back.
I think it provides clarity. I mean, just able to formalize your thoughts, and even though you've done the reflection, even as I share so many of the things that I already thought out before, it just reaffirms, provides more clarity on the things that you care for.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I had the opportunity of talking to Roman, and Roman explained like how he is moving from like Zurich to Busan and from his job and things like that, and it formed a connection in like how our roles might be very different, but the challenges we face are similar. It is just looking at it from a different angle, right?
So very similarly to what you were talking about. Nice. Thank you. Other thoughts around the room? Yes.
Yeah, I spoke to Mahesh and I feel that, I have a new friend in Dubai. Yeah, and it was one thing I realized, like, we are all same human beings. They have similar interests like family. Yeah. Um, and we're all trying to be happy.
Yes. Thank you. And you've got a new friend too, right?
But he's not my friend, right?
And also what I felt like is it was a bit like therapy because I don't remember when was the last time someone asked me what gives life to you. So it was very good. And while I was talking about it, I started to think what was happening in my life and started to put things into perspective.
Terrific. Other thoughts or comments or just questions about the process? Yes, go ahead.
No, I had one more point. I think it helps you to scan for your own blind spots, potential blind spots.
Can, absolutely.
Because if people say certain things, you have either dealt with them or you're not dealt with them. In case you have not dealt with them, it's maybe something you have not been aware of yourself. Everyone has blind spots, which I thought was quite fun.
Absolutely. And I wonder, and once again, it's your choice whether to answer or not. I wonder if how that occurred for you and how it might occur for others. Was it something that you heard, and I'm just going to throw out an answer, you're welcome to disagree with me. Was it something that you heard as you were speaking, or was it something that was pointed out to you by your partner when they shared their perspective on what you had said, or something different?
No, it's more, I think, the partner looking at certain challenges he or she has. And then I think, okay, I had that challenge. If I did not have that challenge, then I understand, okay, maybe I've not acknowledged that it's a challenge for me as well.
All right, so we want to listen to that language, right? Because you haven't heard the word challenge cross my lips while we're in here. And so we're looking at opportunities and not challenges. We're looking at high point experiences and what we're taking away from them. So it's really a different mindset of problem solving. It's because all the questions were focused on what's working and how has it made you richer and deeper and more engaged.
So from the question one, I think most of our conversation was around family, right? When it comes to, right, it's more like what is our commitment to the family, even though it related to work, we delved more into family and occasionally drifted into work.
Okay.
Right, so it's mainly about, like he said, like how she's proud of her kids and vice versa. So it's kind of, we just did not cover the professional life as such, so.
And that was your choice. It was your choice. This is a conference on leadership, so it was my goal to bring us in that direction. And this should be material that you use in the way that works for you. Absolutely. Yes.
So two parts of this exercise. One is the spontaneity in which I was able to answer, and it was very genuine because it was very spontaneous. And two, the reflection of how the other person perceived my answer in the form of summary.
Yes.
Right. So it's very important, like how my words were being, considered by the other person. So it was very heartwarming to see if somebody coming out of her. So I learned a lot from her through this process as well on how she views life and work in a different way than I. And in 5 minutes, I learned a lot.
I think it's the same, right? I mean, when she was saying, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I was like, I should have thought about it. There is a lot of gratitude, right? I mean, she said a lot of things that are so simple yet complex in life. So when I was giving my answer, I was like, should I say the same thing? I'm like, no, I'm not going to say this. But you learn to appreciate a lot of things in life. So I took gratitude on what she was saying. So.
Right. Beautiful, because they were relatively brief conversations and you went so deep, so fast and found commonality. Absolutely. Yes.
I think what I love is the questions that you put together, they're very unique. I have had so many conversations with so many leaders in the past couple of days. So the kind of questions you have put in here sort of made us talk about things that probably show our vulnerable sides to each other as well. We're not as afraid. I think these questions have some sort of, I think this is my takeaway. These questions are so meaningful. It kind of opens up things and it makes things easier to get into that 15% that you referred to, my friend. So
I'm so glad to hear it. Beautiful. So the quality of the questions that we ask is so critically important.
Yes.
Right. That first step. There was another hand in the back, I thought. Yes.
I thought the questions were brilliant, right? I mean, they were very positive like everybody else. But then what I was kind of struggling is with, he gave such beautiful responses. I mean, it was a very nice interaction. I had to try and focus on, should I focus on his response? Should I focus on the emotion that he's trying to convey through his responses? Like there's passion, there's integrity, there's honesty. And I'm like, oh, what are the, what was he saying? And then, I'm trying to, loop it. It was quite an interesting experience.
Yes, it comes fast
Right.
at times,
It just
yeah,
hits you, yeah.
yeah, lots of process. I hear that.
Jill, I have a question. You talked about mindset and you said instead of using the word challenges, I'm using the word opportunities. And the questions itself also show the positive side and bring out the positives.
Yes.
So I just want you to explain a little on how does that mindset and coming from there and putting the right questions with that mindset and how important it is. And what difference does that create?
It's critical. From this particular theory, it's absolutely critical. The questions that you ask
Yes.
will influence the answers that you get.
Yes.
And so, as shown in, David Peoplewriter's life. And so for us too, we can ask the question of someone at work or maybe our partner, if we're going personal here for a minute, how was your day? Right? We could ask that. We could also ask, what's the best thing that happened to you today?
Yes.
How did that meeting go that you wanted to do X, Y, and Z with? Was it what you hoped for?
Yeah.
Right? And set the trajectory for the conversation. So I anticipate, even if no one's saying it at this moment, that some people are thinking, but we have to deal with the problems, right? We have to identify the problems. We gotta
Yes.
dig deeply into them, right? That's
Yes.
the subtext
Yes.
of your conversation. So our viewpoint in appreciative inquiry is that we name what is without value judgment. This is what's happening. We're here. We're hoping to be here. So let's talk about that. And then we flip it. So what's the question that we can ask about what are we dreaming about? And this is where you will all be going next in our time together, is what are you dreaming about? What is the world of possibility? And so that's big. And then how do we design towards destiny? All right, so there's a really good book by Jackie Kellum, who is in the field of positive psychology and appreciative inquiry. And she likens the experience to being in a theater where here's the stage and here are the curtains. And many people think appreciative inquiry is you just open one side of the curtain and that's the positive side and everything is rosy and sunny and it's fabulous, rose-colored glasses. The reality is you open both sides of the curtain, you see what is there and you decide how you want to work with it, right? And so I know the 5 whys, I know all kinds of frameworks for problem solving. I don't want to go there. I don't want to spend my days thinking about problems. I want to name it and I want to flip it and reframe it into a different question. And so that's how we work with it. And there's all kinds of literature out there and I'm happy to share those resources. I'm glad you asked the question. I'm sure it was on a number of people's minds. Yes. And you wanted to say something else?
Oh, yeah. This morning before I come here, I was reading Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer's book, which states the workplace is a dark place. More than half of the employee is willing to not taking a raise to see their supervisor being fired. And then I talked to Kristen. Well, the highlight of his moment is he left his previous company and a group of 50 people.
Not all of them, but
Not all of them, but a lot of them burst into tears. They don't want him to leave. So that is really a life changing. I want to bring him to the professor.
And so what we need to do in instances where there are work environments like that is we need to look at what is. And we also need to look at what is the foundation there? What are the values? Are they being lived or not? And how do we live into them? So how do we take what is and work with it with the goal of moving forward and upward? Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
Just one last comment, Jill, please. This framework also to me is a great way to start communication with anyone when you want to ask from a perspective of opportunities rather than going from like both the angles, which is challenges and opportunities. But when you work on yourself personally, do you not think that acceptance is also one of the starting points to go towards the journey of designing your life? And so if you do not accept that there is something wrong or there's an area where you need to work on, how would you work it on? Like if
So I would probably take the word wrong out of the conversation.
Okay.
Right? So there's something that you would like to be different. There's something you're aspiring to.
Yeah.
Or you're inspired by a vision of something else.
Right.
And so I would be working from, this is where I am now.
Yeah.
So whether it is, just to take a mundane example, it's I'm swimming 3 times a week and I'd like it to be 5 because that's good for my health.
Right.
And so this is what I aspire to do and I'm moving in that direction.
Right.
So it's not about shame or guilt or I'm bad or I'm wrong. It's this is where I am now, and this is where I want to be.
Got it.
And I'm feeling inspired to do that. I personally, and I think humans in general, would rather be inspired than to be told what they're not doing well and how they can do it better.
May I ask a question? This framework of interviewing work for everyone. So I guess my question is, do you have to read the room? Because there are lots of people who are realists, they're not really optimists. They're not necessarily pessimistic, but they're actually quite realistic. So I just wonder, for that group of people, if you're asking them that question, could it come across as being very frivolous?
Right, well, and so that's exactly you're picking up on the point I was making before, which is that we are looking at what is. So it's not about optimistic or pessimistic. That doesn't even enter into this conversation, right? This is for everyone. I've done this with teens. I've done this with all kinds of adults. And this is really, how are you coming to this? And are you willing to let go of a problem mindset, at looking into it and digging deeply at what isn't working? Or are you willing to say, this is where I am now, to the point that was being made, and this is what I aspire to, and this is where we want to go, and how do we do that together, right? So this becomes a collaborative framework. And so we're just doing this much time on this topic. There are so many books out there. There's so much information, the Group Writer Institute, all kinds of things. Happy to chat about it, and happy to have that conversation. So maybe I'll see you later. We'll talk more. But I want to bring up a question that brings us to another principle, to be more exact, and that is the anticipatory principle, which is we live into the future we imagine. So that's been the subtext of what we've been talking about also just now. We live into the future that we imagine. And so that has to do with a bit of dreaming, which is our next D. We started with define, define, discover, dream, and that's where we are now. So I'm going to ask you to get out a blank piece of paper. You have several at your place, because I had the help of several wonderful people that came early to the session in passing out all the materials. And so you will use your blank piece of paper and whatever utensil you have to create an image of your preferred future. So I'm going to ask you to dream. So at this point, just give me 1 second to finish with all of the instructions before you start drawing away. You have an opportunity to reflect on your personal story and build a story about the future. So the question is, what are you dreaming about? You've just had an opportunity to dig a little deeply, to think about where you are right now, what you want for your future. Draw a bit about what you want that future to be. So take the next 3 to 5 minutes to imagine and to draw, and you will be sharing that with a partner. So dream into your future. And if you're stuck in any way, I'm happy to come over and be your personal consultant. All righty then, so let's talk for just a moment. What we're gonna do at this time is you're gonna have an opportunity to talk with your table mates. Now, in some instances, that'll be easy. You'll be a trio and a trio. For the tables of 6, it'll be 3 and 3. All right, because you'll share together. For the larger tables, I trust that you can do the math and figure out what's a reasonable group so you can hear each other without yelling. The folks in the back, you're covered already, right? It's your happy corner back there. All right, so, and if you're just a 1 or a 2, just scoot up someplace else, okay? We don't want anyone left out here. So that might mean that you all come down also, your choice, all right? Now push and just offering. Please share what you have drawn or written in your group. So the largest group should be 4 people at the absolute most, and we're gonna take 12 minutes to do this. So keep an eye on the time. I'll let you know when you're halfway through, but halfway through is 2 folks if you've got 4, all right? There we go, go for it. And so let's come together as a large group and just reflect on the fact that you have just been designing, which is determining what will be. Right, and so determining what should be, you've made a plan, right? You know what your question was, your definition was, whatever you're working on, however you want to be a leader, whatever aspects you're looking to amplify and change in your life. So we defined, we discovered what your foundation was. You dreamed a bit about what you would like. You've now designed the next few weeks, and you're leading towards destiny. for the reminder. And so destiny is the fifth D, and that's where you're going. And does it mean that once you have designed something that it's a done deal, you're finished, no need for revisiting it? Absolutely not. You are constant, this is not necessarily a linear process. It is an iterative process. So you're gonna go back and look at what's working, what do we need to let go of, and how do we move forward again? So we are constantly refining what we're doing. And so the last principle of the 5 AI principles, and these are the core principles, there are emergent principles also, but we would have needed another hour and a half to do that at least, so we didn't do that. But the last principle is the positive principle. And is positive questions lead to positive change. And that's been underscoring everything that we've been doing here today. So perhaps for a few new voices in the room, before we take a look at the graphic recording that was done by Aaron, what was that experience like for you to sit with your dreams, to pick and choose, decide which one you want to move towards, and to design a few steps in that direction? So you don't need to tell us, although if you want to make it really short, you could, but what was that process like for you? What did you think and feel about it? New folks in the room.
So I was able to like synthesize and summarize what I wanted in the defined process. In the discovery, I was able to understand that I love helping people, but I've discovered that there are dreams of people that I want to fulfill. So that is one of my dreams in the third step. And then I designed a logo where I can ask help from people to help fulfill their dreams, which is essentially my dream, because I'm also a human, just like all of us, right? So instead of like making money out of it or community service or starting an NGO, I'm like, why don't we dream big? Why don't we think big? Why don't we come together as a community and solve the problems that we're dreaming about? But it all starts with one dream. And that's where I'm going towards the D part, which is the destiny. And that's why I asked you that question that, hey, what's the difference between just the design versus the destiny?
Destiny is where we're going. Thank you.
It was a great experience.
Super, I'm so glad. Yes.
Jill, I've taken so many sessions here in these 2 days, and I would say this is a fantastic class. I mean, I loved it. And what came out of it is, I think this is what I came to Me2We for, making connections, finding the way to future, and I could actually design it and also write my steps towards how to do it. So I think I feel joyful and elated.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, of course. Other thoughts around the room? Yes.
Yeah, I think there's discovery and dream exercise. So discovery first, that actually really helped me kind of to find these moments that I personally enjoyed and really liked about my professional experience. And dream, I actually because of this dream, I let myself step beyond the goals that I typically have for myself. So my typical goal is like, I always wanted to be CFO, and that was always my goal, and that's what I was shooting for. But now in this exercise, I'm like, why should I limit myself with the CFO goal? Like, I really can go beyond that, and it can be my long-term goal, and that can be my aspirations. And given what I love about like my professional work, I really love operations. I really love everything related to operations. Why should I limit myself with this finance? And it's like this exercise allowed me to create this and to let myself even dream bigger. So thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Of course.
You asked on what was the experience. Well, for me, although it was, I did have sort of a vision before coming to this lecture today, but I did fear the process to getting to that dream. Basically, the experience here and seeing how easily it was to draw or write some words made me less fearful of the entire process of all the steps, some which I see now, others which will come up. So it made it more simple. This is my main takeaway, that it's not as complicated as you would think.
How wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. The other thoughts?
I actually felt this as a excellent exercise for self-validating. I think I found myself constantly needing other people to validate my thoughts. I feel this is a think out loud exercise helped me to self-validate that to trust myself more.
Wow, awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think for me, it's more group as well, you know, especially one of the thoughts, what she said was, you know, treat every day as special. I think for me, you know, not only that special moment, but every day is special. Which I took learning from others.
Fantastic.
Right, and obviously building the steps, fantastic. Thank you.
And then we'll go back. Yeah.
May we ask, if I may, to ask you to share us about your destiny? I mean, from your deadline to all the journey.
Yes, you could, but no, well, I have to say, I use this in various areas of my life. So whether it's my business life and the business that I have, or whether it's my personal life, my spiritual life, I have different ideas around that. But it is this process of definitely exploring, where am I now? Where have I come from? To use the language of my spirituality, what's my lineage? How did I get here? And so how do I want to move forward? And what are my next steps? And so I think big, as you have all done, and then I also start to create a path and I check in with that path. So it becomes an iterative process and always moving forward as to what's working and letting go of what is not. So I know that's a general answer, but we could talk at the reception. Yeah, just one sec, let's get this woman and then we'll talk with you also, and then we'll go to Erin.
I think it makes your dreams feel more attainable as you break it out into smaller steps. It almost feels like a list of things to work on. And I also think drawing it out helped me kind of focus on different facets of life. So not just focusing on the promotion at work or the next step in the career, but also getting a home, getting a pet, things like that, that you sometimes don't always think about as like your life dreams, but when you picture being happy, it also incorporates those pieces.
Absolutely, you went bigger, right? And that was it. And you now have the steps. Great, you planted the seeds. Beautiful. Yes.
So my question is, it's just a question. One of the reflection is that the 5Ds, they're not linear in terms of relationship. So
in terms of relationship?
In terms of steps. So even if I reach the point where I know where is my destiny, I can, as I'm fulfilling my destiny, I can relook again into discovering something new. I found a new dream. I'm designing something. So I just want to get your thoughts about how the relationship between the steps.
It's well, it is, as I said before, it's not completely linear, right? It's definitely iterative. You're going to go back through steps again. But when you've reached your destiny around something that you've created here, you have probably a new question to ask yourself. There's something new to define. There's something new to dream about.
Which is now what? And now what kind of moment?
Yes, it could be, absolutely, right, and it could be for, you know, what's the opportunity, what am I aspiring to, and how do I work with that? Yeah, I see it, I tend to think more in terms of spirals, and so going back and learning along the way and taking it higher and deeper also.
Thank you.
And I encourage you to read about this, and once again, I'm happy to share resources. I want to be mindful of the time and also give Erin her due for all the hard work that she's been doing, the work in the play, I might call it, working. So what would you care to share?
I'm curious, did anybody else sketch note with me? Yeah, okay, as I go through it, I'd be really curious to go through yours. Notice how differently we listen, yeah? Notice how differently we listen. Jill, wow, can we give Jill applause? I work like this, we sometimes call this a chart walk. Often our charts are a lot longer. It's hot in here, y'all. Yeah. I needed more wall space. So this is pretty cramped. I could use more wall space. I'll get to it in a minute. This was the title of your session. I caught and I like to catch the emotion in the room. So of all the best things, you guys emotionally connected with the good night. And so that got a visual here of just this idea that we can go deeper. Jill invited you deeper. So I captured that. I captured just as you guys were trickling in, like, you know, can we go to the moon and back? So that was kind of my idea of like, what does it look like to like really reimagine? Could we go deeper? And I was like in deep space in my head. So that's what I saw there. I kind of want to color these pants because of just the heritage and people in this room. Then Jill led us through a quick definition, like I put that front and center, because this is an AI focused approach. AI meaning, anyone, what does it stand for? Okay, so we did that, we got a good definition, she gave us a reference, so I did share like the name, the creator, David Cooperwriter. From there, you went into your interviews, so that's where I needed more space. I did my best to capture as much as I could about what you built. Trust connection came first, we moved into that 15%. People were starting to bring in what you heard from the sessions, which was really voluminous. From there, Jill moved from define and discover into a kind of a faster end. Around this idea of could we dream, then could we design, and then could we frame our destiny to get where we want to go. So I captured a few of those insights, a couple that stuck with me. Actually, it was one from Jill, which is, look, it's where we're going. And I love it. I'm going to draw this and finish, but it's right here visually. It's a spiral, think in spirals. Like, it's not linear. Our journey isn't linear. We aren't linear people. We keep evolving. It's such a really beautiful growth metaphor. So that's what I've got, Jill.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for playing, right? So we came in, y'all know each other. I'm getting to know you along the way. You permitted me to talk with you, to engage with you, to share my passion for this. I'm happy to talk further. Thank you so much for all your great participation.
Thank you.